So let's discuss the fallout then. Political analyst Makhosini Mgitywa joins me. You know, Makhosini, while the soundbite of the minister was playing and she was saying that, you know, if it's an insurrection, it would have a face. If it was a coup, it would have a face. I was giggling. I've got to tell you, off air I was giggling, but this is not funny. From your side as a citizen, who do you believe, the minister or the president?
You know, I do have the advantage of having worked in government, you know, within the security industry of within government. And I would know that what happened, you know, although it was unrest, you know, and all that. And again, I think another mistake that we make, Thulasizwe, is that we try to attach labels to things that are much more complicated than just simple labels. What we're dealing with in the past a few weeks was just really a multi-layered problem, you know, unraveling. You know, you have people being kept at home, locked down. They're unable to participate in the economy. You hear all these stories of ministers helping themselves to government money and all such things. So the situation was always ready for it to combust at a certain point. So the president, I think, in his view, he thought he needed to be tough. And we always criticize him and say he is a weak president. And he wanted to be tough. He wanted to talk tough, and he used those words so that, you know, even the security, you know, structures within the country can take the message from him when they deal with people that they are dealing with insurrectionists and not just protesters or looters or anything of the sort. So he was talking tough, and I think the Minister of Defense, on the other hand, looked at this thing technically to say, does it meet the requirements for it to be called an insurrection? But for her to challenge the president that way and to contradict the president that way was not helpful in any way, because then it means that government communicates from both sides of its mouth, and it gives you a sense that the center is not holding, and that does not give confidence to citizens. And as citizens, during a crisis like this, we don't want to be getting mixed messages coming from the same government formed by the same party.
But the situation is compounded, is it not, Makhosini, by the fact that this was not the only contradiction to emerge out of this situation. Here you are now with this situation between the Minister of State Security, Ayanda Dlodlo, and the Minister of Police, Begitele, the toing and froing about whether or not there were intelligence products that were produced by SSA and other agencies under the command and control of Minister Dlodlo and passed on to the police as commanded and led by Minister Begitele. That toing and froing, add to that, you then have the acting minister in the presidency almost telling everyone to go to their naughty corner and saying, stop these public spats, they will not be tolerated. That doesn't help the situation, does it?
It doesn't at all, Thulasizwe. And I think we can itemize the examples of how dysfunctional sometimes government communication can be, and I'm saying that with the greatest of respect as someone who was once in that space. I think it shows that there is poor crisis management within government. And also there is poor, almost non-existent strategic communication. It's a name that, you know, in South Africa raises a lot of, you know, bad memories. It was known as Stratcom during apartheid time, and strategic communication was used in a negative way, but you can use it in a positive way. And government currently is not using it at all, and it's not using it in a positive way. So you have this just showing you that we are in a crisis, but the crisis is not managed properly, let alone for it to be communicated properly. In a situation like this, you can't have ministers, one minister go on a walkabout somewhere in Chatsworth saying one thing, another minister in a different place saying completely different, and then contradicting each other. It is wrong. It means that the president needs to crack a whip, and the minister in the presidency, who seems to be the person who is leading government communication, should be allowed to lead and to communicate on behalf of government, and not have all the ministers communicating, seeking attention on their own. It was very wrong for the Minister of Defense to come out that way, and I think she could have communicated that internally to say, Mr. President, yes, you did say it was a failed insurrection, but it doesn't meet all, you know, the requirements for us to call it an insurrection, and so that we don't also communicate in a way that puts citizens in a state of panic unnecessarily, when we are communicating in a way that sends mixed messages.
I hear exactly what you're saying, Makhosini, because part of the challenge that President Ramaphosa faces now is that, from our side, in as much as the NPA doesn't report to him, it's an independent, institution in our democracy. From society's side, it's not unreasonable to now expect that you've said there's been an attempt at insurrection. You've said there were 12 instigators. We can only expect that these people will be charged with crimes that fit the bill for insurrection, sedition, and treason. And right now, he's probably sitting there and hoping that the NPA will charge these people with something more serious than what they've been charged with, at least the ones that have been arrested. How much is riding on this for the president and his messaging that this has been an insurrection?
I think we may just move on as South Africans and forget about it. But if he's unlucky and we don't forget that, politically he may find himself in a difficult situation where he could be confronted by his colleagues, who would say that he's using state resources and state platforms to paint his opponents in a certain way which is not correct and which has been proven by facts that is not correct. I don't know if the NPA will be able, if it is inclined to listen to what the president said and see how it can charge those people. I think the people who could, the agency that could take a cue from the president is the police, but still the authority that will determine charges is going to be the national prosecutor. So he may find himself in a... Yes.
I agree with you, and one would hope that the NPA would not be listening to what the president says. They would be looking objectively at the case being presented to them by the investigators and formulating charges that they can sustain in court. Lastly on this one, Makhosini, what's your sense then, given all these contradictions that we have seen? Some are saying this is the opportune moment for President Ramaphosa to actually use the prerogative of instituting a cabinet reshuffle. Would that solve anything? I mean, he has already been asked that question when he visited Soweto, I think a few days ago, asked by Khayelihle Khumalo, and he said, we are reviewing the situation. Is this the opportune moment for him to institute a reshuffle, at the very least, within the security cluster? And would that help him in any way? Importantly, would it help us feel safer in any way?
Thulasizwe, let me tell you something I learned in 1998 when I was a spokesperson for a premier in Gauteng. And it was that as a leader, you have constitutional power, you've got political power, and you have political capital. You've got to have the three to be able to, to take action like that. If what is happening, Thulasizwe, are divisions within the ANC playing themselves out. And the president must be careful not to take action that is seen as, silencing the other faction within this very fractured, very difficult unity government that they've tried to form. Yes, I think a cabinet reshuffle makes sense. He hasn't had a cabinet reshuffle anyway, and the facts tell us that the country is not on the correct trajectory. Something has got to give. Either he changes his government so that it responds to challenges, or the government or the people, the party or the people will change him. So he needs to balance it. I'm glad I'm not President Cyril Ramaphosa, but it's not so easy to reshuffle cabinet, especially when there are divisions, because those could be used against you. You must remember that President Mbeki encountered serious problems after dismissing former President Zuma, not before. So you may find that you dismiss these people, they are out of government, and they are out there causing all sorts of problems for you on the year that you're going to be having an election, which is slated for February next year. So he wouldn't want to rock the boat, but still he must assert his authority. That's a very difficult balance that he has to strike.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Thank you for that, Makhosini Mgitywa, there weighing in with his insights into the contradictions, the toing and froing and pulling in different directions, really, that we have seen. In fairness to the Minister of Defense, it's worth reflecting that she has been seeking to walk back some of those comments from Parliament and basically seeking to clarify and saying that she was not contradicting the President, as she was merely adding that there are also elements of a counter-revolution that are worth noting in that situation. That's another